I wasn't recording. That was
Oh.
um
Just for
I
the record, Holly just said, "Oh crap," and then forgot to press the recording button. So here we are.
at least I said crap and not other words that I sometimes say. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
Welcome to the LeadrPulse Podcast, the podcast for leaders revolutionizing the world of work. I'm Holly Tate, the Chief Marketing Officer here at Leadr. And in today's episode, you're going to get to hear from Alina Vandenberghe, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of Chili Piper, a fast-growing SaaS company. And on today's episode, we unpack the idea that focusing on retention might be a waste of time. So here is me and Alina, and then Matt and I unpacking this hot take that Alina has for all of us today. So that leads me to another thing that I've heard you say is that the growth of employees is more important than the retention of them. That can be really scary if you think about, well, what if I develop my people or I grow my people and they leave, right? I've invested and poured all of this time, money, and resources into them, and then they move on to a different company. But you're saying that the growth is more important than retaining them on the team. So tell me more about that. Why do you think that's the case?
So I think traditionally the focus on retention for people teams makes sense because you don't want your top performers to leave. But I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Because if you really don't want your top performers to leave, then you create opportunities for them within the company that can allow them to thrive. And that's a very different way to look at it rather than try to keep them captive. If you look at it for opportunities for them to develop further, depending whether it's aligned with their mission or not, then it just creates a different kind of culture where you look of opportunities in areas where you might have not looked before. Maybe that person who's a top performer, maybe they're in sales and all of a sudden they're interested in marketing. Maybe they are in marketing and all of a sudden they realize that they reach a ceiling and there's nobody around who can mentor them, and then you look outside for a mentor. So it just creates the right kind of activities and actions within the organization rather than trying to keep people captive. And it has happened to us many times because we really hold true to this value of helping people grow. It has happened to us that we found jobs outside of the company and they're very happy, and that creates goodwill over time, and it shows that we really mean it. It's not just blah blah blah. That we say that we care, but we don't take the right actions.
Well, and that leads me to another thing that I've heard you say, which is kind of a hot take, which is you believe that it's more important to align people with their passions in the role within the organization. And again, that can also sound a little scary to an executive that's like, well, I don't really care if they're excited about this. I need them to drive results and get this job done. So how do you reconcile driving business performance and growth with supporting employees' passion? I'm curious to hear how you align those two things as a leader.
First, it starts with the interview process, and I'm very intentional about making sure that the job description that we have in front of us matches with the passions of the person that we're bringing on board. And I feel it's really hard to fake passion.
Yes.
Because when you ask people about their work and you ask them about how they go about certain things, you can tell in their body language if they're excited about doing that particular work or not. And look, at work, we all use, especially in traditional settings, we're all used to putting a mask on. Everything is great. Everything is wonderful. But the reality is that you get burned out if you do things that are just not aligned with your particular skills or particular way of. We're all at different times in our lives and we're going through different personal challenges, and we're just not going to do our best work if we don't manage to align those skill sets with what the company needs as well. So it starts early. If there are pivots, and if somebody realizes that, you know what, they hate Excel spreadsheets, they're tired of Excel spreadsheets, we're very flexible and we allow people to hire freelancers to help them with certain things of their jobs that they may not like. And these days, there are a lot of people who are providing fractional help. and there are other people who are passionate about certain things, and why not like dig into this new economy and then benefit from it in ways that allow our own employees to thrive. It creates a beautiful ecosystem.
Well, Alina, thank you so much. I'm always inspired by the way that you guys are looking at leadership and leading a company differently there at Chili Piper. And if you do not follow Alina on LinkedIn, you really need to do that. We will drop her LinkedIn in the notes of this show today, because she weekly, sometimes several times a week, creates some really amazing LinkedIn posts about things that she's dealing with as an executive and as a leader. So thank you so much, Alina.
Thank you for creating this little opportunity for us to discuss topics that might not be discussed in other settings. And I do want to end with one thing.
Yes.
For me, this value of having fun at work is so important that I live it every day. And it's something that I wish I cultivate more in others as well, because life is short and it would be a shame for us to spend it on things that we don't like.
That is so true. I cannot agree more. One of the many things I like about Alina is, and she writes about this on many of her LinkedIn posts, is how she was raised and her growing up. She's originally from Romania, how that informs how she views work and life now. And so that last thing that she just said there about like life is too short to not have fun, and I could only imagine how stressful her days are as a co-founder and co-CEO of a fast-growing startup. And she's got 2 kids. And so, yeah, it'd be easy for her to forget about the fun. And so the fact that she prioritizes that every day is really inspiring.
And tell the story you just told me too, about how she balanced family and work. I think that's so cool.
I know. So she recently just she was attending a conference and was up for an award at the conference. And she posted on LinkedIn a photo of her 2 kids on the plane with her, because she had been traveling a lot and was just tired of leaving them behind. So she decided last minute to bring her 2 kids with her to the conference. And then she ended up actually winning the award. And so she's like walking in this like beautiful red dress up to receive the award, like holding one of her kids, and then her other kid is like trailing behind. And
I love it.
With her, and just what an example that she's setting to her kids and the company, that you can do both. You can work really hard and win awards and also be a present parent. And then this is another thing too that she posted, which was hilarious. Her son started, I can't remember what the product was. I think it's like an app or something that he's selling. And so she gave him a goal. She said that she would like pay him a certain amount of money or buy him a new toy that he wanted if he could get like 10 qualified meetings booked at the conference. He's like wearing a lanyard with like a piece of paper that's handmade with a QR code, where he's like,
oh my gosh,
please book a meeting with me. And people were like scanning the QR code to book a demo. It's just so
I
good.
love that.
That little kid's going to grow up to be like a successful software leader because of that experience,
So cool.
Yeah.
She's a great leader. She had some really good takes. I liked how you started the conversation with this idea of, what if I develop my people and they leave?
Mm-hmm. We hear that a lot. I've gotten that question after several keynotes that I do. It's like,
yeah,
I can't afford, like, we just poured all this coaching and training into them. I can't afford for them to leave.
Yeah.
But what if you don't and they stay?
What if you don't develop them and they stay? So I got a question for you, Holly. What's worse, quitting or quiet quitting? And maybe we have to define quiet quitting.
Okay, yes. So quiet quitting would be just coming in every day, like showing up and being, I'm like using quotes, present, but not actually giving your all and fully committing to your job and the role that you have.
Exactly. It's don't worry about the folks that are leaving your company or organization. Worry about the people that are still there and have left in their heads. And so I think quiet quitting is far worse too. I agree. And so if you're choosing to not develop or not to prioritize development, you are inspiring, encouraging, you're creating a culture of quiet quitting. Hot take.
Oh yeah.
You just are.
Yeah, because what's that? There's like another quote. We're full of like tweetable quotes. But like people rise to the level of the performer.
They fall your lowest performer sets the benchmark for the team, and so they'll lower the standards to the lowest performer on the team.
Yeah. So if you're keeping people around who are quiet quitting, who are doing just enough to not get fired, you are showing the team that that is the benchmark for success.
Right.
And yeah, good luck driving the outcomes and growth that you want to achieve with that
Seriously.
value on your team.
Yeah, it's so
And
true.
I love that she said that like we really mean it, meaning like you can have all day values in your employee handbook or on a wall, but if you're not living it out and you're not showing
Yeah,
your team that you really mean it, then they're not going to behave that way.
it's true.
Your behavior as the executive team is really your values. It doesn't matter what's written down. It's your behavior as an executive team.
Yeah, it's true. She had a lot of great takes. The part I'm not sure I agree with that I want to wrestle with is the point about moving people around if they're not successful in a role. So is that how she articulated it?
Well, so I didn't hear not successful in a role.
Not passionate.
It was passionate. Yeah. So like the example of if they're tired of spreadsheets that she was using, like opening up opportunities for them to explore other areas that they're interested or passionate in. So that's a key differentiator. It's not performing. Like we're assuming what she means there is that the person is performing.
Right.
They've lost their passion for it.
So how do you, we have something at Leadr called the tour of duty, which is essentially like expect to be in the seat for a year before looking up and looking around for what the next seat could be. We were struggling with folks coming in and in 3 weeks asking to change roles or be promoted. So how do you measure those two things? If passion just dies out because you had a hard week or the job's really difficult for a season or you're faced with a big project that isn't going well, so you lose passion, are we supposed to just move that person to a different role?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like how she said it starts with the interview process. And we've learned
Yes.
that. Like that's what we've
It's
had to do
true.
because we were not setting that
It's
expectation
true.
in the interview process until, I don't know, maybe like a year ago. And we've seen our retention rate increase
Yes.
that role a ton because we've stated it from the beginning. Like you will be in this role for at least a year. Not to say that you can't, so maybe this answers your question. It's not to say that you can't explore or have stretch projects
Sure.
outside of that role, but your expectation is hitting quota in this role for at least a year.
The other thing, and this is what I thought you were going to say, but because I agree with that, but the other thing that we fixed was we found we had a lot of people that were passionate about the mission of the company, of Leadr. We had a lot of people that had a deep why and attachment to what we do. They didn't have a strong why or passion or attachment to how they did it in that specific seat. And so we did a good job of passion for the mission. We did not do a good job of interviewing for passion for the role. And when Monday through Friday, 99.999% of your time is the role, not the penultimate mission, we found that was a big disconnect. We had a lot of people saying, I love what Leadr does, but I don't really like being in sales, or I don't like being in customer success, so I don't like, so that was the thing we had to fix too. I think it's so important to be passionate about how you do it.
Yes. And that's a good point. I think the overarching passion can get you through those seasons where it's really hard or you're not hitting that goal that you want to achieve. That can ride you through, but only for so long. And so interviewing for and being passionate about the how, at least for a short-term season, let's call it a year or whatever it is, or maybe until you hit a certain benchmark. It's important to have both. But passion for the overarching mission can only get you so far when you're in a role that is in what we would call our competencies. So I want to unpack that with you, Matt, because we're huge through our partnership with Patrick Lencioni. We've really adopted the Working Genius, which is his productivity tool assessment. And so the whole concept is that work is a 6-letter work or 6-letter process. So it spells widget. So it's wonder at the very top, which is like 30,000 foot view. Then invention. So wonder is like, what problem are we trying to solve? Invention is what are our ideas to solve that problem? Discernment is which of those ideas is the right solution. And then galvanizing is rallying the team around that solution. Enablement is supporting the team with the resources and tools that they need to accomplish that solution. And then tenacity is checking off the list of all the things that need to get done to do that solution.
That
And
was like an entire webinar in 14 seconds. You crushed that.
You're welcome. Thank you. I actually, you can't see it, but it's on my little like whiteboard, clear whiteboard behind me too.
We're nerds because it's behind me as well.
Oh, that's right. We are such nerds. But anyway, so what he says is, so we all have two geniuses, and these are the things that we're naturally drawn to. They give us,
And they just give us life.
yeah, they give us energy. And then our competencies are the things that we're good at, but they don't necessarily give us energy or joy, but they don't drain our energy. They're just kind of like, meh, they're there.
But if you get stuck in them, that can lead to burnout.
Exactly. If you're in your competencies for too long, that's what leads to burnout. And then your frustrations are the things that you procrastinate on. They take you a lot of energy, and they just kind of suck the energy out
You've
of
got to
you.
like slap yourself in the face to get like lead through your frustrations. Like, come on, you can do it.
Exactly. You drink a Celsius, I drink a latte.
Hypothetically, I'm drinking one right now. But that's not because I'm not in my frustration. This galvanizing is a genius. So
There you go. Sure. Yeah, thanks. Anyway, I say all of that because if we're not, so this is a great, I'll tell a personal story here. So in a former role, I had acquired a new boss. And through building our relationship, I said, I'd been in my role for years at this point. And so I had said, hey, my mistake was I used the word bored. I said, I'm just really bored. And what he heard was I didn't have enough things to do because he associated the word bored with like not being busy, not having enough things to do. What I meant was, and I didn't have the words at the time, working genius is what really gave me the words to this. What I meant was like, I'm just not energized by the responsibility and
there's
the
a
work
difference.
that I'm doing. There is a difference. I was plenty busy. I was
Yeah.
on the road. My calendar was swamped. Like,
Yeah.
so bored was not the right word, but that was the only word I had at the time to try to communicate what I was feeling. And so he proceeded to send me an email with, 20 bullet points of all of the things that I should be doing.
Oh
which
my
I was like,
gosh.
okay, I did not communicate effectively.
Discernment was not a genius of his.
Yeah, definitely not. And so anyway, my takeaway from that season was, and then I heard Pat say, in, I don't know, a podcast or webinar when I was learning about the working genius, was that when you're in the problem is often we get stuck in our competencies because we're good at them and we're adding value to the organization. So our leaders want us to stay in those roles because the thought of us not being in them can be scary. But it's our responsibility to fight against that and find an area where we are adding value and brings us joy. And so that's been my career in marketing. I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Not all aspects of marketing bring me joy or energy. And so I have to really make sure if I'm in a marketing role for a long time, that I am, at least the majority of my role is under the things that give me energy and joy,
Right.
and I staff around the areas that drain me, or make sure that I'm only doing those for a certain amount of time. So
I think it's so important to carve out space on your calendar to do things that give you joy, even if it's just a small percentage of the week to carry you through the rest. One of my favorite quotes from Mike Rowe, who's the Dirty Jobs guy who had a show forever ago, he says, success in life is found at the crossroads of your greatest passion and your greatest strength. If you can do those two things day in and day out, you will find success. You will find joy. And I think this is a good example of that, is like the passion to do the job itself is the thing that will ultimately make your strengths follow, because what we're passionate about, we learn and we grow and we get better. So I would say a good practical tip for people listening or watching is take the working genius and have your team do it, and then begin to identify, are your team living in geniuses, competencies, or frustration, and then try and find ways to supplement more of their geniuses within their world, and you'll start to see them come alive more frequently. The disclaimer I want to provide is like, don't just move people around if they're not working out in a role. I think that's I think organizations are full of people that just keep job hopping or role changing, and I just don't think that's effective personally.
Yeah, it has to be moving them around for passion and joy, not for lack of performance. That's the
Yes.
difference.
Yes.
We're assuming that they are performing in their
Yes.
role and are now looking to be stretched or challenged in new ways of things they're passionate about, not that they're underperforming.
Yes.
And so we just shuffle them around. So
you're going to send a bad message to the team if you do it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you to Alina for challenging our thinking. And yeah, go take the Working Genius. It's super helpful. WorkingGenius.com.
She was incredible. Alina, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast with Alina Vandenberghe. Make sure you go to our website, Leadr.com, and sign up for the LeadrPulse newsletter that we send out every week. That's the latest actionable insights for leaders revolutionizing the world of work. And I want to encourage you to go follow Alina on LinkedIn, where she posts regularly about her hot takes around business or leadership. We'll catch you next time on the LeadrPulse Podcast.